All right, ready to go. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First thing is I'd like to give a shout out to North Shore Asphalt. They are our contractor for snow removal. They did a hell of a job when we had the snow blast a couple weeks ago. They communicated real well with me. We game planned the best we could in the event that we did not call school. So a good shout out to them for being ready and able to do what they needed to do. And then out to my maintenance department. They came in on Sunday as the snow hit, and then we spent that entire week moving snow. I know it's their job, but in my opinion, they went above and beyond, and I would just like to give them a kudos for what they did. The Lamuth gym floor, I've contacted Randy Miracle of Cincinnati Floors. He was the contact during the project over the summer. I'm seeing some irregularities to where the outline of the plywood that was put down is starting to show very definitively in the floor, and we're starting to feel some ridges. So I am having him come out at 10 a.m. on Thursday, December 19th. We're going to look over it. I'm going to get some feedback from him, and then once I get that feedback, I will share it with the group. Winter break's coming up after the 20th. We will have a few things going on in the district during that time. We do have the EA group. They have been contracted to do hazardous materials testing for the AHERA report. That is something that we have to update every 3 years. We are up for renewal, so they will be out throughout Buckeye, Melridge, Lamuth, High School, Media Center, John R., and the bus garage for 3 or 4 days to conduct that and then put the report together. So we should probably see a report in several months down the road, and that will be on file for 3 years before we have to renew again. At the same time, we're going to have the Lake County Health Department come in for a day or two. It's their biannual walkthrough of the schools, looking for some irregularities or giving us some pointers as to what should or should not be in our schools. It's a standard thing that we go through. It usually goes very smoothly. We get some insight on some things we should look at. I forward that to my department as well as the principals of each school, and they act accordingly. And then we also have Southeast Security coming in. That should be about a 2 or 3 day process for high school, John R., field house, bus garage, Buckeye, Melridge, Lamuth. The motherboards, which are the control panels for our intrusion alarms, will be changed out, at which time I will also be getting the program that we can add or subtract entry codes with individuals' names, so we will have a better understanding of exactly who, what, where, when, and why is in our school, as well as I will have the ability to, the district will have the ability to, we can arm and disarm our buildings remotely or set a schedule if we need to in the event that we don't have staff or we have individuals on a calamity day that need to get in. We can go ahead and go into that program and open the building, and we will not be setting off the alarms and disturbing our Lake County Sheriff's Department, who has better things to do than to deal with false alarms.
So I would check with John to see if the new panels will tie into the door system.
They will not, because it's an S2. He's looking at a roundabout way. We will be talking about that when he comes back as well.
Okay.
But it's something that's ongoing. But as of right now, he does not believe so, but we'll see. When we had that unfortunate incident on Halloween with the domestic disturbance at Riverview, our schools, which we always do, is we do some lockdown procedures. That's just something that each school does for practice and protocol. Some of the teachers did approach me from Lamuth. There are 28 door handles that you cannot lock from the inside. You have to go outside the door and use a key. It's a deadbolt. Also, if you loop the paracord around it, when you pull on the door, the paracord will slip off the handle. Cleveland Vicon is the company that supplies us with key blanks and cores for our locks. So I had them come out, and they gave us a proposal of $14,140 to replace 28 locks. It's not only the lock, but it's also a metal panel that will go over the door sleeve as well, because we're going to pull out the deadbolt. So then when the handles are in place, the teachers can have the lock button on the inside. The rope will hold onto the handle when They use the paracord if they need to, and it's just a safer way to have things, and it's actually going to be the same as the rest of the school, because
Are they the ADA handles?
they're the push-down handles, yes. This way the teachers can, if a student needs to go out of the room for whatever during class, they can unlock the button, student comes back, they don't have to go out and do the key and all that. It is a safety thing. I think it's something that was brought to my attention that, you know, we should look into, and I'm asking this committee if we can go ahead and approve this. They will, once approved, it will be ordered and scheduled for February to be completed.
I mean, I would do it. It makes the whole building the same, right?
It'll make it the same, and it'll make it easier for teachers to be protected as well as students.
So they don't lock from the inside?
No, they're key locks on the outside.
That's new stuff.
All right, we'll move with that then, thank you.
That's under the board of approval threshold, so we'll just move forward. Won't need to watch, just that's for this week.
So just superintendent approve it.
I wanted, it was so close, I wanted to bring it to the committee.
I like that.
So the treasurer's input is let the superintendent do it.
Love how that is. He just writes checks. I just write checks.
I don't work for the superintendent.
Yeah, you know, I see how this is.
I said input.
Yeah.
We've discussed this before a little bit. I've touched on it briefly every now and then. In the high school, media center, John R. Fieldhouse, bus garage, Buckeye, Melridge, Lamuth, CCG automation is the control systems for our heating and cooling. It is very user-friendly. The company is very supportive of the district as far as giving us any manpower that we need. We do get an individual who comes in and handles our account. He comes in twice a month to run diagnostics, make improvements, give us input, so on and so forth. At Parkside and Riverview, we do have Gardner. Gardner is becoming more and more difficult to deal with, and I have talked to Brian Wagner with CCG about the potential of switching over Riverview and maybe even Parkside, depending on cost and ability and approval. If the committee is willing to do a next meeting or the meeting after a brief 15-minute presentation by Brian Wagner, what I'm asking him to do is give you information as the potential to remove Gardner from our schools and to put CCG and Parkside and Riverview under a program that we would get payback off of the savings. So my goal would be is to switch it over but not have a cost or a major financial burden to the district. If he can come to us with one or two programs that we can look at, review, see the possibility, if it is actually even feasible, and then have a discussion as to whether or not we're going to move forward. But I'm just asking if we would be interested in that presentation.
Oh.
We did that with them before.
I do not.
That was for lights or something.
That was the,
I think.
that's
Probably
The light program, they've
Yeah,
been,
before my
they've been
time.
with us for years.
Yes.
oh, that was the guy who came in to turn off the lights as you walking out. Remember save money.
So you want
Stickers
to
up.
operate more effectively and efficiently, right?
I want a program that I can go in and I can manipulate any classroom or office here or remotely at any time. You cannot do that with Gardner. Gardner is proprietary. You have to call their help desk. It is not user-friendly. It is very difficult to deal with them, and if you talk to anybody in the industry, they are constantly under lawsuits because everybody's having the same problem. Is they need control on their buildings, they need control on their equipment, and calling somebody is not efficient and it's not adequate.
Right. So, I mean, at some point, no matter how far out it is, you break even on the cost.
Yes, and one of my reasons I'm pushing this is, or asking for this, is that because with Riverview Edition, we're going to have controls, and if we were going to ever make a switch, at least with one school, Riverview would be, at the time of that addition, would be the time to make that, if it's financially feasible, and it's something that we all can agree upon, that's gonna be beneficial.
Yeah, let's see what they say. on cost.
Can you write that into the specs, like the controls
You can,
specifically, or did you make them up for
I
a
think
contract?
it's called the sole sourcing of a
Okay.
product, so we'd have to probably do a special board resolution to do that, but you can.
I think we can make the argument as to why, especially with the
Well, definitely make the argument for why. I mean,
CTE building not here, but then I would say even for
I
Do
mean,
we
why?
have, a contract obligation with Gardner that we're gonna have to break?
By the time we get to where we need to, the yearly contract that we're in will run out.
So
Plus,
no downside.
CCG has a lot of the projects they do here at the campus already do that.
They're already here, I mean, yeah, they've been here for
They
like
do, I mean,
forever.
They're,
It's not cheap to do a switch over, and that is why I'm asking for a very brief proposal by Brian to, what do we have out there that will not drain us financially, that can get us a payback? Something that if we're gonna implement it, we're putting it in at a cost that's not coming from us, it's coming from the savings.
Well, we
that's
did
just-
that at the high school, long time ago.
Okay.
Let me ask this
Switch over
question.
them.
When you do a switch over, is it possible to have a program where you do it building by building, or is it whole system?
No, you do it building by building,
Okay, so I mean, there's options.
yes.
Yeah.
Is it the mechanicals or just the program behind the?
It's a program behind it.
Okay,
It's,
so
it's,
the-
it's all the components and the sensors that go into the classrooms and all the rooms, and then it's creating the program itself to where you have graphics, and then you have, like CCG has 14 layers, and I only go into layer 3, because if I go past layer 3, I might destroy the world.
Thank you for
You
knowing.
can control the lights at the
They've told me,
Pentagon.
never go to page 4, stay out of that.
so Belinda, you're correct. Remember when we
Yeah,
had
they-
all the
right,
issues
they-
with our old heating and?
Right,
Well, they-
and then we
They would
switched over to
change the
CCG,
Yeah.
and like you can control each room and
Yeah,
yada
so does
yada.
our purchase.
Yes.
So when I'm sweating. and-
Yeah. and
The
it-
only
Oh,
thing that
it's
would probably stay the same in a
She's in my
switchover is that
house.
She's so
all the
awesome.
Cat 5 that's been run through the building.
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
is
there's
interchangeable.
icicles in the windows.
All right, I will talk to Brian and then see if he's available, and I will tell him I want to keep it brief.
January meeting,
Yes,
I'm hot.
I mean, whatever the makeup is of the committee,
okay.
just be January
Committee's
meeting.
changed in
Your
January.
calendar, your committees could change, so it's.
All things stay the same except for some of the faces and names.
I had to take it off.
All right, well, thank you, I will work on that. And then last, the CTE building and the Riverview Edition updates.
We have a plan.
Yeah, so you're saying there's a plan?
For at least, yeah, it's very exciting. I think we have settled on it. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Chris, but I'm super excited. It looks like we're ready to move forward, at least on the CTE part.
Yeah, Ryan and Roger will be at the board meeting to present floor plans for the CTE building, pretty detailed floor plans, and then sketches for Riverview as we're still finalizing some other things.
So, question, what I had heard was that the length of the hallway in the CTE, how did that end up?
So, one of my concerns was the length of the hallway, and it wasn't the walk, it's kids unsupervised in
Right.
hallways do bad things.
Right.
Historically. The way we set it up though is that, and you'll see Thursday, but we have the advanced manufacturing equipment room is first, and we're thinking that's going to be windows. Then the classroom, that will be windows, and then at the very end will be the construction area, you know, the large open space. So visually, all the rooms are gonna connect, but visually, you're probably gonna be able to see all the way down that hallway from that end point, is what we're thinking. That's what we talked about. So I'm super excited. It's really gonna give us some flexibility and allow us to grow from here, should we choose to down the road.
Great.
Whatever happened to the, like, allied health and all those things that I think, didn't when we wrote the grant, like, we said that we were gonna,
So I need
Pursue
a
those
class,
paths
yes,
also.
yes, that classroom space. So we have a dedicated classroom space in this room where that healthcare class will end up going. Okay, so that's key, was to have the two separate spaces, advanced manufacturing that we could close off because of the equipment, but also a
No,
classroom
no,
space for them to sit
all
down
together.
and do some learning.
That was just.
because don't we have, we'll have to at least follow up with them and provide them with some, here's what we did. Right?
Oh, for
Like,
sure,
from-
they're
like,
already
at-
they send us an update, you know, like you gotta give information. Good Lord, I hope I remember to do that this week. You actually emailed me and said, are you doing this? And I was like, yeah, I am.
You're good.
I gotta remember, yes, but they send, like you have to give updates on where you are.
Where you are,
Yeah.
And real quick, I sent off yesterday pass this down real quick. The ranking for the construction manager for the Riverview edition
That we belong to, the construction.
really came down to price and schedule. There was a pretty big difference between the prices of the three firms that submitted for the Riverview edition. So Roger and I worked together on putting, this is the same type of matrix we did for the CTE edition. That email was out yesterday, a draft. Just wanted to see if there's any additional input on it. I mean, really, all three firms are pretty equally qualified. It's just the looking at schedule and pricing. Cleveland Construction came in much lower at their total cost was $394,000, where CT Taylor came in.
How much? 394?
Cleveland was 394, 429. Cleveland, or CT Taylor came in at 468, 405. And Green Space came in at 594, 239.
Wow,
So,
wow. Wow, that's huge.
yeah, it was
What's that?
quite interesting how they came in. So the plan would be to have the contract on Thursday's agenda for consideration.
Pretty simple, right? Okay, so I passed out two renderings from TDA for the 12 to 13 classroom edition at Buckeye. Option number 1 has the gym at the end, on the north end, away from the street, attached to the wing, the new wing. Option 3 has the gym in the front right of the building. In talking with Ms. Smolin, one of her main points was that with the cafeteria and gym, a lot of times you want those to go together, be as close as possible. So that is one reason why the gym would go in the front. So these are, Melissa, kind of like the CTE, first
Yeah, no,
rendering,
yeah,
you
yep,
know.
gotcha.
And Riverview too, and how many changes are there along the way, right? So these are drawings that Ryan thought made sense for the property. And so, yeah, these are the initial drawings for the wing.
Did Ryan have any thoughts on where the gym should go? Because while I appreciate what Cassie's saying,
He didn't care.
did he say anything to you about where, because typically a gym should go away from classroom space, not because of the noise, you know what I mean? So I would be interested in talking to Cassie
So
and understanding her.
Talk with her, talk
Okay.
with Ryan. Right, so you look at schools, like here, in traditional schools, new schools, whatever, and I know in the older schools, the gym would be more in the back, closer to a playground area, and or in the middle of the facility. You don't want people walking in off the street, so to
Yeah.
speak. So all of those things are gonna come into the conversation, I'm sure.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
this conversation that has been had with, is administration pursuing this?
We had, that's in the facilities plan, we had talked about it. So, and I would say even with the gym and talking with Ryan, because we talked about initial, what's a concept, what's a timeline to get it, especially with looking to redo the school, I think it's not if you're gonna go in and do the school, you have to have everything planned and staged. We talked about other districts that have done it, and really kind of how they did it to get it within that 2-month window in the summertime and what that looks like planned out. So in getting everything staged, there was a lot more planning on the back end first, and then the plan came from there. I wonder the gym on the left side in the front, because that's where the cafeteria is. I know we had talked about Or actually, like, it's like, it would connect to it at that point, not necessarily next to the vestibule.
Let me jump in there, and talking with Ryan, there's so many tie-ins there.
Right, that's where all the mechanicals come in.
Plus you have your delivery,
Mhm.
so there's a lot of challenges putting
To
it
go,
in front
okay,
of-
that's what I wondered, okay, so that's
Yeah.
not a good
So,
location.
so for what you're
Okay.
talking about, that
Yeah.
would probably be the best location. Functionally, getting it done,
Okay,
big problems.
all right, that's fine, that's the kind of information
Yeah.
that I need to understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are where he thinks the best two from a construction
Yeah.
standpoint,
Because,
okay?
because originally, when you look at the building, what you're talking about, that's where it would go.
Okay,
But now you have all these issues.
The
Okay, that
square
makes
with
sense.
the X is the elevator?
I'm sorry, say it
The
again.
square with the X is the elevator?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
That looks like it would be.
So
Yeah.
we talked
And,
funding.
and again, this is an initial drawing, right? I
Yeah.
mean, where do you want to put things, you know, so obviously, things can be moved. If you look at option one on that drawing, you'll see a green rectangle at the gym. And so, you know, he was just putting options
Oh.
in there. Are you gonna need storage space? You're gonna need this, you're gonna need that. So again, these are just thoughts and ideas of what you might need. And all of these discussions will be had, of course.
So again, I'm gonna ask, have we discussed how we're funding all this, because we certainly don't have dollars to do this.
So the funding on this, right now, and Gary, you're having,
So on Thursday, Mike Purcell is gonna come, talk about borrowing options.
For all of these projects
Yes.
combined.
so on the Riverview, we had talked about doing cash, the cash on hand, and for the Buckeye, the initial thought is, in running the numbers, it would be a $12 million loan, and then then there would be discussion about the term of that loan and what the payment requirements are. So rough numbers are plus or minus $100,000 a month, and then you're looking at what the terms are, and it looks like it'll probably be a COPS loan, right, Gary? Because you go the other way, it might get a little too tight. So you have, and all these discussions will be had, but it's gonna be plus or minus $100,000 a month on the payment. The question is, how far do we want to go out? And of course, there will be discussion about that. Just one thing I put out there is, I'm a person that looks at a little bit shorter term, and the reason is, when you look at the difference between a 12 and a 14 or 15-year loan, you're spending a couple $1 million in interest, and I look at that as purchasing power to do things, and so, but all those things will be discussed. So initially, looking at 12 million, so when you look at the space required for the rooms and the addition, and then you look at, like Chris, what you just said, reaching into the old building, the original building, and you're looking at air conditioning, you're looking at lighting. Lighting's probably the lowest number on that, but how much do you have to reach in there? Rich, are we gonna keep systems, replace systems, have two different systems? All of that needs to be looked at. And then the same with Melridge, because what's included in that price would be air conditioning and lighting at Melridge to bring that a little bit up to date. And maybe some other wants and desires of things that could be added in. So, Rich, your initial thought on systems at Buckeye, old and new, would we replace the old?
I would say if you're going to invest in the school and you're gonna put an addition, you're gonna make one central location of a facilities plan and incorporate old to new.
So kind of reach into the building and do as much new as possible.
Correct.
Because then the question is, how much interruption is there in the building for school? So part of that will be the discussion too.
And some of that could go as well in planning. I do believe from our vestibule project and some of the other projects we've done at Buckeye, there is enough ceiling space above the ceiling to run ductwork, even if it's low profile. So then you're gonna get into a four-stair system throughout the school, which is beneficial in the long run because we do have boilers that do operate, but they are getting aged. So it's something that you're gonna look into, and you're gonna wanna be more energy efficient because the univents that we currently have are not efficient. They are actually noisy for the teachers. So putting an addition on and incorporating four-stair through all the rest of the building would be the way to go.
And I mean, that's almost a no-brainer, right?
And if you did it correctly and you timed it correctly, I think Brian, Ryan touched on a little bit, at other schools where they've done the internal 11-week work of having everything ready, so you could still have school, but you're not gonna do the tie-in until a later date, which is in your new mechanical space, which would not interrupt the start of a school season.
Right, and when we go back, was it the CTE? If I remember correctly, the people interviewing for the contracting were talking about, specifically talking about running ducts through the ceilings of different buildings that they had done and how they retroed that and made it work.
Yeah, we will be bringing back alternates for that space, for a couple of different spaces throughout while we have the contractors on hand. Especially spaces that make sense to kind of reach in, as well as some other spaces like the choir room that we put off. If we're gonna have an HVAC contractor on site doing a larger job, it just makes sense to see what they can do for
Oh, there's that,
the
like,
choir room, the lecture room, and
right, and it's like Rich said,
Cafeteria.
you have these vents that are noisy, my goodness, let's solve those problems now, right? I mean, because all you're doing is chasing after problems at that point. And you eliminate those issues, and it just saves you, and it brings us one step at a time, like Rich, right? Because we eliminate the issues and put good things in place that have a long lifespan. Now you're not spending as much time chasing things, fixing things that are just a headache.
So can I ask a question here? We are gonna be talking about financing prior to actually like approving an addition.
no, we're gonna have discussion, my understanding, we're gonna have a discussion about financing. We're gonna discuss the facilities plan, and the Buckeye project is the first thing on the facilities plan.
Okay, I'm gonna ask again. So are we having an agenda item on Thursday to approve an addition on Buckeye? Because I would like to talk financing before we actually go forward and do that.
It's gonna be on the agenda for approval. And the reason is, there's a timeline on the construction. The architect generally takes 4 to 5 months to create their work. In order to successfully execute the Buckeye addition, the time to break ground would be immediately after school ends. And so the architect is saying he really needs to get approved on this in January so that he can have his work done, so that the construction company can go ahead and break ground in June. So even a 1-month delay might cost a half a year to a year's completion time.
So
on-
we're
on
kind
the
of
project.
rushing through this, like, we're gonna talk about financing on Thursday, and then all of a sudden, we're gonna approve a building addition. I'm just asking, like, that's really fast, to have thoughtful conversation, to take things away, to kind of try to digest financial data and determine what's in our best, we're doing all that on Thursday.
Well-
Is that the understanding?
So in the board meeting, yes. So we've had meetings over the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's great, I
and
haven't had meetings, so like, I don't,
Well, I'm
I'm a
just
board
saying that-
member that I need to
So to
actually
answer your
understand
question,
stuff.
yes.
Okay, great, so I don't have any other data, so I'm gonna hear Thursday, I'm gonna hear this information, the first time I hear it, I'm going to have to make a decision, is that correct? I wanna make sure that I'm clear on what the expectation is from where I'm sitting at a board table.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else?
I'm just gonna go on record that saying that I'm not in favor of that, so if we're gonna come through and we're gonna say the Buildings and Grounds Committee is recommending, I'm not, so I'm part of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, I'm not recommending that we do that on Thursday immediately. I would like some time to be able to digest, ask questions, think about what Mike Purcell has had to say, come back, ask questions before we move forward with that, so.
Okay, is there anything else?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So am I seeing 14 classrooms, is that correct?
So,
I want to know what I'm looking
Yes.
at, because then I want to look at what's inside the building and think about educationally, you know what I mean, like where we would place
yes.
things, so that's
Good
what you're
question.
thinking?
Okay, so basically you're looking at a 2-story, 12-room addition. That extra rectangle there that
I was
looks-
gonna say, math is not my strong point, but I feel like there's potentially 14
So that's a
here.
7th one.
Okay,
And initially, you can't see it in this drawing, right, it's just a rendering. initially, that is an extra classroom for lab or that sort of thing. It's a multi-use room. Now the question comes in, which was raised very quickly, if you're doing one floor, do you want to do 2 floors and have 2 classrooms? And now it's 14. So it's 12 to 14.
Okay,
Right now, the idea is 13, but again, you know, these
and not
discussions-
putting a second floor on that one odd classroom.
Yeah, but Ryan quickly came back and said, when you're doing this construction, you might want to just put
It
a,
doesn't matter, okay.
might as well, just because of the cost of it, put a room above it.
I'm so not comfortable with this.
And it
Sorry.
gives you an option, right? Because here's the question, when you build something, do you want to build it perfectly for the size you need? Do you want to have an extra classroom? Do you want to have 2 extra rooms for multi-use?
Right.
And what it does is opens up opportunities, right, for the other educational things you might want to do.
Right,
So that's the question, and that's the discussion I think we need to have.
So I'm gonna ask again, and I'm just gonna continue to ask questions. Has the administration been talking about this and we haven't seen it in a board packet? We've got 3 other board members who theoretically haven't seen this information, and you're going to ask them to vote on this on Thursday after 5 minutes of conversation, maybe 10. Like, is that the plan? We haven't even seen this in a board packet. And you're presenting this, and that's great, but how many other board members have seen this? Because
So-
technically speaking, they probably should not have already. Because
Uh,
we're presenting it here, but nobody else has seen it.
Yeah, so what I am saying is this is being presented in the 5-year facilities plan.
I understand
And
that,
eight-
but usually a building
Here.
facility addition is more
So,
than 5 minutes of
Let me
discussion.
finish. In the 5-year facilities plan put forth by our superintendent, okay, which we've had, myself and our superintendent treasurer had about 6 hours of conversation over the last 3 weeks. The initial presentation was 8 classrooms, which has been changed to 12, right? in your-
Multiple. We left it at multiple.
Okay, so whatever, 8 to 12 or whatever. And so, yes, there's been a lot of discussion about it, and the administration and myself at least think this is an absolute necessity. Part of the issue is, we have had kids in trailers for 17
Yeah,
years.
Scott, I know that, like,
We are
I've been
looking,
around, I
we
know
are
that.
looking at solving the problem. Now we get into, when you talk with, I've talked with Ryan at TDA, I've talked with Roger, and when you look at the execution of this building project, it needs to get approved so
You
that
know
the
what, I understand
architect
that, please don't
can
patronize
start
me, at the end of the day, I
his
believe
work.
the board has got to have
I'm
more
not patronizing
conversation
you,
in 5
I'm
minutes.
explaining to you, okay?
You
I
can
know you
explain all
don't.
you want, Scott. I'm sorry that I believe that that's a big decision, and this board needs to have more conversation than 5 minutes. You've got 3 other board members who, technically speaking, have not even seen this information.
Well, we can
And
take.
we're going to ask them to make a
We can
decision
take as
on
much
Thursday.
time as we want in the meeting to discuss it,
Okay.
okay? So,
Well, let's not say that the Buildings and Grounds Committee is gonna recommend it. Let's just say and be clear at this meeting that Scott Fischel is recommending this, but the rest of, like, this half of the committee is not, so. That's all I have to say.
okay, do you have anything else to say?
No.
Okay, is there anything else? Okay, so Melissa, what you're saying right now is CTE and Riverview wrapped up.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you know, as far as planning goes,
planning,
you know,
the
yeah,
drawings,
we're
the planning.
tweaking Riverview. I think we have more tweaks left on Riverview, not big ones, but you know what I mean, like office space and moving, just flip flopping some classroom and small spaces and stuff like that. CTE, I think we're pretty set, right?
Okay.
Would you guys agree? I feel like that
From a
one
schematic
we're
design,
done for
there's
sure.
obviously more
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah,
Or
and then
detail.
Riverview was just a little bit of, like I said, putting classrooms together so we could put a door between them, things like that. But overall, both are done. So Gary was gonna start to drag out some of the old furniture orders so I could start looking at that, so that at Riverview, we're ordering similar stuff, you know what I mean? So the building stays consistent, that kind of
Right.
thing. So I need to start looking at what would be our best, or we need to start looking at, I guess is probably a better way to say it, what classrooms will go in there, which will help dictate what furniture we're going to buy for those rooms, you know, itty bitty furniture or regular size people furniture, so, but yeah, we're good.
Okay, so Now, if you're mostly good there,
Yes.
you can start talking with Ryan about how you want classrooms situated for this.
Okay,
Okay, I mean, here's the general footprint, this is the
Yeah.
footprint. So now you go from there and start moving
Okay.
classrooms and walls and whatever,
okay,
you know. Obviously, it being consistent with Riverview, the classrooms on the first floor will be larger than the classrooms on the second floor.
okay.
Okay, and you'd be looking at, whether you're
That's
gonna have
interesting.
bathrooms in those first floors.
I will want, before I have a conversation, I'm assuming this isn't happening until after the first of the year. We're not
Well,
trying to
the-
cram
the-
this in the
Oh, no,
next 3 days.
We're gonna do it tomorrow.
Well, you're looking, just like CTE and Riverview, you're looking at a first rendering,
Okay, thank you.
okay? I
Um,
mean, you know, just like, CTE, Riverview, you're probably gonna have a half
Okay,
dozen
that's,
to a
okay,
dozen
so
changes.
that's what I wanted to know. We have a couple
Yeah.
of, we're gonna have a couple iterations of what
Yeah.
we're doing. Because the other thing I wanna look at, Chris, is where, like, I wanna see the rest of the building. You know what I mean? Like, I wanna see the classrooms on here and get an idea of what we wanna do in that space. If we're gonna make these kindergarten spaces, like, then are we gonna put bathrooms in, or are we thinking no? So, couple of things, but yes, I get your point. We can start working with Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the cost really doesn't change much. You're looking at a basic square footage.
Okay,
And so how you organize that footage is just a desire rather than a cost
Okay.
issue.
and we're still, you're not married, or no one's married to where the gym goes at this point. We can really look at that educationally.
This is a global discussion, because there's gonna be a lot of thoughts and ideas, right?
If I
Okay.
could, my 2 cents, if this came to fruition, if we could turn I like the rendering one, and there's several factors for it. The parking is more located towards the gym. After-school sporting events and functions, and this type of rendering would be able to lock off that portion from the rest of the school.
That's kind of what I was thinking,
And
actually,
the
too,
other-
Rich.
The other item that would be a consideration if this came together would be the gym should also, if possible, have a stage, so any school functions that need to take place would take place in there for plays,
Yeah,
choir
like
concert,
Riverview. Mhm.
kind of like Riverview, so
Yeah,
you're
like Parkside.
you're not locking yourself into what is currently our gym cafeteria.
Yeah, I got you.
Making it large enough to where the parents could come and see the children's
Mhm.
plays or whatever in that. So not so much as a gym as a multifunctional
Yeah.
space.
So, thanks for bringing that up, because that's one thing I didn't mention. In going over there and looking at the gym and the stage as it is right now, if you go over there, you'll see the stage is packed with stuff, with offices on both sides, right? And so, you level that floor, and that cafeteria space then will be adequate for all the students, including the addition.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Actually, that's the first thing I thought was, can we level that?
Yeah, level
that-
it right
the
out, make
cafeteria
it one
and pick
floor,
up the rest of the
eliminate the
space.
stage, and then put, like Rich, what you're saying, a new stage in the new gym.
Okay.
That-
Alright.
That's exactly what it would be, and then what you said is exactly what I thought. In the back would be better because of the things you're saying. So,
I like
again,
it for-
everyone's
I like it
gonna
for
have an
noise
opinion.
purposes too.
We would also need
away.
to make sure, again, if this came together, that there was enough bathrooms to be adequate for the occupancy load for that portion of the building.
Yeah, and so obviously, that's gonna give us a lot of opportunity for bathrooms, and now the teachers won't have to go to the bathroom in the kitchen. You know, so yeah, we're gonna fix a lot of those issues. So, yeah, and that's one of the things in talking with them over there, they're real interested in having adequate bathroom space, so. Yeah, all right, well, good. That's it, then I hope everyone has a wonderful day. We'll see you Thursday now.
Thank you.